You're going to see them going at it now.
That's
Points are
exactly
on the
right.
line.
That's exactly right. These guys know that they want to gather as many points as possible in this stage in case something happens in the next stage or at the end of the race.
Whoa! Something's going to happen, all right.
Bell hard into the wall.
That is a huge hit.
NASCAR just made a massive announcement after Talladega. What the hell is going on? Following Christopher Bell's terrifying crash at Talladega Superspeedway, officials have ordered dramatic alterations to a notorious section of the track that has been plaguing drivers for years. This isn't just some minor tweak, we're talking about a complete overhaul of what NASCAR officials themselves are calling a wreck magnet. The decision comes after heart-stopping footage showed Bell's number 20, Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota, slamming head-on into the inside wall during the recent Jack Links 500. The impact was so violent, it completely destroyed the front end of his car and left fans holding their breath. What makes this announcement so significant? NASCAR rarely makes such immediate and substantial changes to a legendary track like Talladega. So what exactly happened? And why is NASCAR taking such decisive action now? Let's find the details of this development that could forever change racing at one of NASCAR's most iconic venues. The incident that triggered this massive announcement unfolded during the Jack Links 500 at Talladega on April 27, 2025. During a mid-race restart on lap 52, Christopher Bell was running in the outside lane when disaster struck. His Joe Gibbs Racing teammate Denny Hamlin was positioned behind him, providing what should have been a standard push draft as they exited turn 2. What happened next sent chills through everyone watching. Bell's car suddenly spun out of control, veering sharply down the track and directly into the path of Chris Buescher. Both cars slammed violently into the inside wall along the back stretch, with Bell taking the brunt of the impact as his Toyota collided head-on with the barrier.
Be successful and sometimes push in bigger ways. So, you know that's what it's going to come down to. It's a shame that we only made it 50 laps. I felt like Sport Clips Camry was doing everything I needed it to do to be there at the end, but you always run the risk of, taking a push at the wrong time, whether it's lap 50 or the white flag at 187.
What made this crash particularly alarming was that it happened despite the cars not even reaching full racing speed. The teams were still accelerating after a restart when Bell lost control, yet the impact was severe enough to completely destroy the front end of his race car. Bell immediately dropped his window net to signal he was conscious, but the damage to his vehicle was catastrophic. Both Bell and Buescher were checked and released from the infield care center, but the racing community was left stunned by the ferocity of the collision. How could an impact at reduced speed cause such devastating damage? The answer lay in the unusual configuration of that particular section of wall. The crash highlighted a critical design flaw in Talladega's backstretch wall that has been lurking in plain sight for years. Unlike most sections of the track's barrier system, this particular piece of wall actually juts out at an angle toward the racing surface. Mike Ford, NASCAR's managing director of racing communications, said this when describing the problematic wall.
Yeah, it's that wall. I think John Probst has called it. It seemed like it's a wreck magnet. For some reason, that area has been hit often. There is a wall there because there's an access road right behind it, where we have emergency vehicles stationed so that if there is a wreck on the backstretch, they can easily get there. So that's why that wall is there in the first place.
So why does this dangerous angle exist in the first place? The wall was purposely designed this way to accommodate an access road behind it where emergency vehicles are stationed. This creates a protrusion into the racing line at approximately a 5-degree angle, possibly even more, according to Ford. When cars hit this section, instead of glancing off the barrier at a shallow angle, they're more likely to impact it head-on, exponentially increasing the force of collision. What makes this situation even more shocking is that Bell's crash wasn't an isolated incident. This exact same section of wall has claimed numerous victims over the years. Denny Hamlin's spotter, Chris Lambert, pointed this out on social media after NASCAR announced the plan changes. Great news, but it should have been fixed after a Jay Allgaier pounded it in the exact same spot last year. Lambert was referring to reigning Xfinity Series champion Justin Allgaier's crash during the 2024 Ag Pro 300 playoff race at Talladega. The fact that multiple drivers have suffered similar crashes in identical circumstances points to a systemic issue that has somehow persisted despite NASCAR's typically proactive approach to safety enhancements. The question on everyone's mind: why did it take so long for NASCAR to address this obvious hazard? After years of incidents at this treacherous section of track, NASCAR is finally taking decisive action. Amanda Ellis, NASCAR's Senior Director of Racing Communications, said this on the weekly Hauler Talk podcast. Ellis announced this.
Yes, Nate, to answer that question, that wall will be adjusted or, essentially corrected. Before we return in the fall, they're going to take that lip out and actually straighten it out and kind of straighten the wall as well. That leads into that and fix that area. And then there's an additional area of the track too that in our kind of recapping the weekend and looking at all the areas that will also be fixed before we return to Talladega in the fall.
This is huge news for driver safety. The planned modifications will completely transform the angle of the wall, creating a straighter edge that should significantly reduce the severity of impacts in that area. Instead of cars hitting a protruding angle that directs force straight back into the vehicle, they'll now encounter a more traditional barrier design that allows energy to dissipate along the wall's length. Mike Ford elaborated on the specific changes coming to the notorious wall.
That's why that wall is there in the first place. But it's right now, I think, at a 5-degree angle. It might be even a little bit more than that. And so, planning that out and making it more of a straight edge should help as far as the significance that these wrecks lead to. So that's one of those things that we're going to fix over the summer, and then, like as Amanda said, be back in action for October. See a new wall there.
What's particularly interesting about this announcement is the timing. NASCAR plans to implement these crucial safety modifications during the summer break, ensuring everything is ready for the Yellowwood 500 in October 2025. This race falls during the playoffs when championship implications make every turn even more critical for competitors. The urgency with which NASCAR is addressing this issue highlights just how seriously they're taking Bell's crash. When a section of track is officially labeled a wreck magnet by NASCAR's own communications director, there's a major problem that demands immediate attention. Despite the violent nature of his crash, Christopher Bell showed remarkable composure and sportsmanship in the aftermath. Rather than blaming his teammate Denny Hamlin for the push that sent him spinning, Bell took a broader view of the situation. "I think I feel really good," Bell said during an interview shortly after being released from the infield care center. "I don't know, my hands device, my seat, my belts, everything seemed like it did well. It was a big one, that's for sure." Whenever you're the car getting pushed, you're completely at the mercy of the guy behind you. Denny Hamlin didn't do anything wrong. You have to push. You have to push to be successful. It's a product of the cars we race with this rules package. Bell's gracious response highlighted the inherent risks of superspeedway racing, where drafting and pushing are essential tactics for success. His comments also pointed to potential issues with the Gen 7 car design at restrictor plate tracks, particularly regarding bumper compatibility between different manufacturers. For his part, Hamlin was quick to accept responsibility for the incident despite Bell's absolution. On his team radio immediately after the crash, Hamlin expressed confusion and remorse. "Man, apologies if that's on me. We weren't even up to speed yet. I don't know why that would have wrecked him. When he shot down to the bottom, I wasn't even sure I was actually on him." Later, on his Actions Detrimental podcast, Hamlin elaborated on what happened.
"We were running 177 miles per hour is what it said. So we're not even up to speed. And I have for forever, when I'm the fourth car in line pushing or inside, I always push the car all the way until turn 3 after a restart. And I have done that for forever. And it's never been a problem. And it just spun out to 20.
So what does that mean?
I don't know.
We're not up to speed. Like, what is that?
Yeah, so usually when you're not up to speed, you're able to push more aggressively.
The reaction from Denny Hamlin's spotter, Chris Lambert, echoed what many in the NASCAR community were thinking, that this change, while welcome, was long overdue. His comment that the wall should have been fixed after Justin Allgaier's similar crash last year reflected frustration that it took another serious incident to finally prompt action. The Christopher Bell crash was just one dramatic element of what turned out to be a record-breaking race at Talladega. The 2025 Jack Links 500 shattered a 2-decade-old NASCAR drafting record by completing an astonishing 62 consecutive green flag laps to finish the race. This marked the longest uninterrupted green flag run to conclude a drafting track race without a last lap accident since Jeff Gordon's victory at Daytona way back in 2004. Team Penske driver Austin Cindric capitalized on this extended green flag period to secure a dramatic victory, breaking the organization's 2025 win drought. The race showcased drafting's critical role in superspeedway success, with Kyle Larson providing a strategic push that helped propel Cindric to the checkered flag. But the drama didn't end with the checkered flag. Post-race inspections delivered shocking twists when Ryan Preece and Joey Logano were both disqualified for illegal rear spoiler modifications. This erased their impressive finishes and reshuffled the final standings. Mike Ford explained during the Hauler Talk podcast that Preece's team had added a third shim to adjust the number 60's spoiler angle after being out of compliance in pre-race inspection. The NASCAR rulebook permits only 2 spoiler shims at superspeedways, making this a clear violation despite the team's claims of an innocent mistake. Neither Preece nor Logano appealed their penalties, accepting the consequences of the infractions.